the first trading day of 2025 and of the new year. So I hope everyone had a great, safe New Year's, and we're getting started here, taking a look at what's going on with these equity markets with a slight little pop here on the overnight session after a decent little sell-off. So the final day of 2024 was indeed a little more bearish, right? We had a pretty red day, and then we had a spike lower on the overnight before the buy side came in. Now, some of the big winners of this year include cocoa, which was up nearly 900%, coffee, which was up about 82%, and orange juice futures, which are up 78%. We have the likes of the S&P 500. The SPY is up about 24% for 2024. The Nasdaq was around 30%. We got gold near 20%, and a lot of other futures here putting up some decent gains throughout the year. Some of the biggest losers for 2024 include the Japanese yen, soybean oil, cotton, palladium, soybeans, and wheat, right? A lot of these are down between 15 and 20%. But on the other hand, we had a pretty strong 2024 for a lot of the sectors. You looked at the Mag 7, drastically outdid the equally weighted S&P 500. The Mag 7 alone did about 64% in 2024, while the second largest sector was communication services, if I'm not mistaken, was about 34%, with financials doing pretty well. You had XLY that did pretty well. A lot of the sectors throughout the S&P 500 had a pretty strong year. Some of the worst performers were materials, which were barely up about 0.5%, right? And then 0.15%, and then you had a health that was up about 2.5%. Those were the weakest performers as the market rallied pretty notably. So, as everyone's shaping up for 2025 and putting out their expectations, crashes versus rallies versus a lot of different aspects, we're going to take it step by step and see how things kind of settle down. I do have some thoughts in mind for the beginning of 2025 that I shared last week, but we also have a pretty tough start from Tesla, right? Homeland Security is back in the spotlight as law enforcement and federal authorities investigate a pair of attacks that occurred on New Year's 2025. The connections between two incidents are growing, with vehicles involved in the events rented from car app Turo. Both were EV pickup trucks, and the perpetrators reportedly shared close military links. More information may be available today as the FBI provides an unclassified briefing to the relevant House and Senate Oversight Committees at 10 a.m. Eastern Time. And we saw that a Cybertruck was used in these incidents, and now Tesla is down a decent bit. So New Year's revealers were celebrating on Bourbon Street in New Orleans when 42-year-old Shamsuddin Jabbar rammed a Ford F-150 Lightning into a crowd, killing about 15 people and injured at least 35. He exited the vehicle wielding an assault rifle but was killed by police within minutes. An ISIS flag and pipe bombs were found in the pickup rented by the U.S. Army veteran who was a IT specialist, while a local Airbnb rental property was raided in connection to the IED manufacturing. The FBI has said they do not believe that the terrorists acted alone, with surveillance footage showing several individuals placing an explosive device in the area, postponing the Super Bowl at the Caesars, or the Sugar Bowl, the Sugar Bowl at the Caesars Superdome. And hours later, a Tesla Cybertruck exploded outside of the Trump International Hotel in Las Vegas with a cargo bed packed with canned fuel, gas tanks, and fireworks. Sources have since identified, and Tesla down pretty significantly. Pretty harsh way to start the new year, not for the stock, but just in general. It's a tough sequence of events for 2025. But if we're talking about generally just the market in itself, I know a lot of people are looking for a significant turning point in the markets to see downside to start the year off, right? A lot of people are comparing what's going on in the SPY as a head and shoulder sequence and so on and so forth. There's a lot of different reasonings as to why the expected downside is going to open up. But the way that I see things are I think that everyone should take it step by step. I think that, yes, markets are fragile. We're getting a new president, Trump's inauguration. I think that markets are going to be a little subdued until that occurs, right? I mean, I don't necessarily think that there's going to be some kind of massive turbulent downside or volatility until we have that. And then we're going to see what goes on with the markets in general. So with that being said, we've pulled back a decent bit here to start things off. I guess from this overnight most immediate downside after the S&P and NASDAQ both tagged these key resistance areas. Right now, right, structure is pretty bearish for both these. Unless the S&P decides to start bidding above 5990 or 6000, I think it's going to be a bit tougher to be on the bull side. We saw that the overnight held pretty well. We've tried, I guess, like 2 days in a row to hold, or I guess not 2 days, but a few sessions in a row to try to hold that 5920 area. So far isn't really, well, I guess on the overnight didn't really hold that well, but immediately we go and trade the 5990 area here on the S&P, and all of a sudden we get a pretty strong, decisive 20-point downside move, and more even that, right? So about 30 points even. The NASDAQ very similarly around that 420 area. We have a distribution start for our next area higher, but as you can see, immediate downside shockwaves have been sent. We've pulled lower. So we're going to see right now, there is some bearish overall structure. We had a very strong move on the overnight session, but don't get fully fooled by that and try to buy every single dip. I do like to be bullish myself, but I feel like we're going to have to see prices start moving through some key auction areas higher, because it's a matter of time spent in these areas. We're slowly, incrementally making lower highs, and we're failing to accept into auctions higher, and we're continuously making lower lows. That is not a great sign for the buy side, even though you can see on the overnight we've had a decent little rally over here. It's just we got to take that with a grain of salt and some caution. So let's see how that shapes up. Let's have a great first trading day of 2025. Slow and steady. I know a lot of traders are probably not going to be touching this market until next Monday, but as you'll know, or as you may know, next week is going to be also a shorter week because of the morning of former President Jimmy Carter. On the 9th, the markets will be closed, which happens to be a Thursday. So we'll see. A lot of people, a lot of big traders might be postponing their comeback to the markets, but let's go from there. I hope everyone has a fantastic first trading day of 2025.